Well, as you can tell from that intro, I'm usually talking to business people. So this has been an exciting opportunity for me to gather research that I haven't presented before, stuff that I'm passionate about, that I've witnessed in the field as I do my research, and share it with an audience that I can get feedback from people who are passionate about similar things and I can learn from. So I welcome that kind of feedback from you all so that I can see it better and more clearly. So that said, being the unlikely presenter in something on arts and community, I found that I had much more to say than I thought. I had to start paring back. So really what it came down to after I synthesized it all with a little bit of help was I had seen a couple of great examples. I had some catalyst moments myself in the arts. I had had some catalyst moments in my career, all in the same year, 2011. And along the way, I found that the two converged. I had seen a couple of places where they overlapped. I had seen lots of places where they were the sum of their parts. But I had seen a couple of really great places where they weren't the sum of their parts. They were exponential because of something that happened, the engagement that happened, and that things were not benign. You weren't witnessing, you weren't passing by and thinking within yourselves, but some sort of catalytic interaction happened, and the outcomes got really exciting. So that's what I want to share with you today. Let me tell you more about 2011, though. Well, let's go back, actually. Let's without the celebratory moment. I'm standing in an elevator in the West Village in New York City, where I don't live. I'm from Boston. And the gentleman approaches and asks me about the button I'm wearing on my hat. Not here, on my hat. Big as life. And I tell him about it. It's a campaign button for 2012. It's early in the game, so he hadn't seen it, and he explained that that was of interest to him. And we went our separate ways. And I came back to the apartment that I was staying in. There was a note under the door, and it said, "To the lady with the button." And it was under everybody's door on that end of the wing, wherever it came from. "To the lady with the button. I fear that I missed an important opportunity to tell you about a big project I'm about to start. I'm leaving at 8 in the morning. Knock on the door at any hour. I would like to speak with you, or call me at this number whenever you can." That's a moment. Do you do it? Do you stick your neck out there? It's that vulnerability thing. I decided, sure. So I went down. We had a 40-minute conversation about why it was that I had this early issue campaign button. I had just come from Washington, D.C. He thought that was interesting. I told him why. I told him what I felt and how I was struggling with a different campaign than I had been involved with, my first ever being involved. It wasn't a willing thing. It was a desperation thing. I had gotten involved in 2008. It was a wonderful experience. I was not having that experience the second time around, and yet I wanted to engage and be involved, but not in a way that betrayed my reasons for doing it. And that resonated with him and his project. And very timidly at the end of the conversation, he said, "Would you be willing to look at my script?" I'm like, sure, what the hey. I didn't realize what a vulnerable moment that was for him, but I could feel a little bit about it. Sure enough, he sent me the script after 40 minutes of knowing me. And that was a big risk on his part, much bigger than me walking down and knocking on that door. So he sent it to me when he was back in LA, and he asked for some notes. Another big risk. I don't know anything about that, what that meant to him to make that offer to me. I gave him a few notes about my perspective, about the backdrop of the film, and I was immediately embraced in this film team and this community of passion about this film. And I watched with interest as the struggles came and went, trying to get the film made. And it was very exciting to me. And then came the second thing that's going to converge into this story. And that is that at the same time, I was getting interested. It was a tough time in the economy, 2011, and my business, real estate development advising, was waiting for a lot of things to happen. And me being naturally curious, I was looking for sparks, and I found some in this workplace stuff that seemed to be different than I had ever seen before. New kinds of incubation that were exciting, had growth, had endless growth potential, had people who were excited about what they were doing, and I wanted to know more. And I had thought that it was unique to Kendall Square in Boston, in Cambridge actually, and then I discovered that no, it wasn't, that there was a lot of it going on and actually being promoted by the Economic Development Administration of the city of New York. Bloomberg's administration was very big on supporting co-working. I'm like, wow, there's more of these? And so when the opportunity came to go to the West Coast to see the trailer, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just drop by. Well, in my heart, I wanted to say yes, though. So I said nothing for a week, and he had made this big offer. You know, could you come out and see the trailer? We're kind of excited. So I sat there for a week, and I felt bad that I hadn't given him an answer, but I didn't like my answer, so I waited. And a funny thing happened. The world conspired, and somebody, a college friend of mine was going to be out there, and said, gee, you ought to just drop by, not knowing this backstory. You ought to just drop by. I'm going to be there for a conference. It would be great to see you. Get out of Dodge. You know, come visit. And it happened to be exactly when he wanted to show me the film. So I said, okay, I'm getting the message. I'm going to take another chance. 40 minutes we've spent together. And he wants me to fly across the country to see this. I did it. I don't know exactly why. It was the best decision I ever made, or whoever in the universe made it for me. And he showed me the trailer, and by the time this shot came up, this is a trailer, not a film. The trailer brought tears to my eyes because it reminded me of my experience in 2008 so strongly in a way that nothing else I was involved with in the second campaign did. And that brought tears to his eyes because that's exactly what he wanted the film to do. And he hadn't shown me the film yet. And it was only going to be a 20-minute film. Now recognize, this was his first film project. And I was thinking, it could be anything. But I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look at co-working and maker spaces, and one of the rolls of the dice will turn up something, you know, minimize my risk. Well, both of them turned up all aces for me in terms of a pivot in my personal pursuits as well as my extension of my career pursuits. So I went on to get very interested in many aspects of this, but the ones that I want to show to you today are things that have to do with community. And this is a wonderful quote of Coy's. Coy is the one who wrote the story. It's his personal story of a real day in his life with his brothers. And I loved the togetherness message of this quote. I felt that it said volumes about really what his mission was in film, and especially this film, his very first. And that was exciting to me. So we've become mates, fast friends for life, family, in fact. So I really thought his storyteller mission was admirable, and I was happy to be a part of it. I also found similar values in the co-working community. People were talking not about work. It's called co-working, but it's really about life. These co-working communities are not just a place to work, they're a place to socialize, they're a place to learn, and learn from each other, and learn from the public and the interaction with the public. That's radical. You know, many people have said, oh, you know, it's a bunch of entrepreneurs, it's incubation. Like the 80s, we've had those forever. No, this was different, and I knew it, and I wanted to show people why it was and have them not dismiss what was going on. And now everybody's on board, but it's still interesting to me to add information to the picture. But I want to show you how these two things came together in my research. This is Seattle Impact Hub, a co-working space that I stopped by a year ago. I froze when I saw these portraits. I asked about them. Don't you want to know this man's story? He's homeless. And all of those portraits were homeless in Seattle, faces of homelessness in Seattle. And I thought it was impressive that they had been a part of a hackathon, and that the hackathon, people were doing apps to try and help agencies. There was art on the wall. I thought that was great. I thought we had something here that I wanted to share with you today. In the interviews I went on to talk with about the people who shot these, I found out that there was a lot more going on in terms of the interface through that event with co-working and the homeless and arts, and what that meant to integrate the community that this co-working facility was settled within, where a lot of homeless services were provided, where the arts and arts walks are the hottest that there are. And yet, these were huddled people that weren't necessarily seen this way, as people with stories. And when I learned about the people who were involved in this event, I saw just how powerful this could be. This is that photographer's statement, and he's totally pivoted towards providing these sorts of helpful messages of salvation, of stories of people's lives, and of what little things would make a difference in their life today if the community could just provide it. And he helps make those connections. And he talks about this being a tapestry, the community, and that's so true. And that's what's happening in the best co-working facilities. People are integrating as a community together, and that's very important. This is all of his pictures together, and it sits opposite the community members' rogues gallery, where you can see the co-working group, the homeless portraits, just individuals, all of them, all in the same community, equal and important. The person who put together the hackathon said something really brilliant in the interview I did for today. She said, art is a great way to educate people without making them feel like they're being educated. Well, that was my catalyst moment with the film. I was tired with arguing with people that something had changed in 2008 because they wanted to know why everything hadn't changed. That was an argument I was tired of having. Change mattered. A step mattered. The film, with a backdrop of 2008, but a foreground of a family struggling to make a little bit of change with their own relationship, exemplified something I had learned. It's like, you can argue till you're blue in the face, but if you show somebody something through art, it will stay. It's much more powerful because they arrive at it themselves. Or don't, but they own it when they get there. You don't own it because you persuaded them. They're not persuaded. So I thought that was great. And she's doing other hackathons to do different things. And I hope that can keep doing things like this. But here's another powerful one, that to do the really big problems, you have to collaborate. And that's really key. And that's what co-working does. And that's what arts messaging has the power to do. Another co-working facility, Indy Hall, has made a big push into the arts. And we're not just talking murals on the wall. We're not just talking art walk exhibits. Those are good. But engaging the community is better. And they've also done something along these lines. They've gotten connection with a youth art mural program in Philadelphia. And they've had pop-up arts done, pop-up shop of the teenagers' arts that have gotten the community, arts community, young arts community, very committed to collaborating with Indy Hall. And I think some interesting things will come in the future of that. So this is an art walk night, and you see an actual artist engaged with the community. The founder of the co-working facility says that, like Indie Hall itself, Indie Hall arts events are opportunities to interact with the people you don't normally interact with. Well, them being there is one kind of interaction. But there are levels of that, right? How do you get the most out of that? Well, it's when you actually get them engaging with one another and not just witnessing the art. People at some of the events, like a baseball event, where they were trading baseball cards that had been given out as part of the event, as well as a theme, got people unexpectedly interacting like kids with cards. They were art props, but they became much more. They became tools to spur that childlike thing that people do with that. And that was something that they want to keep finding ways to do. Okay. I think that this is a very powerful thing. Brad Feld, big entrepreneur, now big venture capital group, has written Startup Communities and a bunch of other startup books, a guru in a lot of different ways. He said something last week that I heard him say at MIT. He said, I don't believe you can motivate someone else. All you can create is a context to motivate. This is a tricky statement. You can read it different ways. You can debate it different ways. I think it's valuable for that alone, is that there's a lot of different perspectives on this. But I think the context to motivate is what arts can provide. And I think coworking is a context to motivate people too, and keep people from falling back on their dreams through mutual support. I think both of them, at their best, are not just the sum of those things, but when you can motivate the larger area with the personal community and the public community, then you have arts plus co-working equals community squared.